The scar remains. In a hot Ankara summer, I sit on the pavement, looking at my bleeding knees. Whether from pain or fear, I cannot tell, but my eyes begin to brim with tears. And to think how I had begged my grandmother to let me play for an hour in the street before my father came. At last, with my elder sister joining in, we were able to persuade her. From our window, we usually just watch our friends playing dodgeball, but this time we would be able to play together. Our friends knew that we were banned from playing in the street, so they would keep watch for us on our rare street escapades. Even the neighbouring district, they knew about our street band, and as soon as they saw my father's car, they would whistle a run inside message to us. I remembered that I was secretly angry with my father. I was 9 years old, and even with my sister by my side, I couldn't play in the street with my friends. I can't say whether it was from inexperience or because I wasn't used to playing in the street, but at the start of the game, I remember being sent flying into the air by the ball. It didn't take long for my ever-protective sister to make me sit down on the pavement. It was then I realized my knees were bleeding, and I was terrified. As I knew my father would be coming to take us out soon, my first thought was how I could hide the cut on my knees from him. A little mishap on the street could get blown out of all proportion. It was obvious from my sister's expression that the same thought had occurred to her. Before I could say anything, she suggested that I put on trousers. That would only work until we got to the swimming pool. When I went into the water, my father would see my grazed knees for sure. To make matters worse, my grandmother would get her share of the blame too for being accomplice. When I thought about the trouble I would cause my sister and grandmother, I was furious with myself for falling. While I, my sister, and all our friends who had gathered around us too were all looking at each other helplessly, the silence was broken by the neighbouring district warning whistle. Even while I was trying to hobble inside, helped by my sister, my father's car appeared at the far end of the street. We got into the house at nearly the same time as my father. I rushed into the bathroom and set about cleaning my knees. My heart was pounding rapidly in my ears. When I emerged from the bathroom, I was confronted by my grandmother and father. "Is your knee hurting very badly?" my father asked. Confused, I was unable to shake my head. My sister was watching us from a distance. "Come on, if you're ready, let's go," my father said a little nervously. My grandmother nodded her head to tell me to get a move on. She must have seen the whole thing from the window and, as mother-in-law, had said some pretty effective things to my father. The secret games, the warning whistles, and the dashes back home behind the concealment of the wall, they all continue for a long time after that. Indeed, on one of my escapades, I was even hit by a car. It's a beautiful feeling to be protected and looked after, but in the end, if you ask me, all that a band achieves is to make whatever is banned all the more interesting. Even worse, for fear of the reaction, we start to conceal things that truly need to be shared. And it seems to me that's much more dangerous than going out onto the street. Now, I too have children, and I also, with a mother's instinct, want to protect them. But every time my grazed knees come to mind, and I can't help thinking that the cut healed, but the scar remains. stay with love.